For nearly 30 years, there's been one video game franchise that can only be described as a roller coaster of highs and lows. An iconic character from the 90s who has since stood the test of time. That's right, we're talking about everybody's favorite speedy blue hedgehog, Sonic. The edgy 90s mascot that never went away. What makes Sonic so iconic that they're still pumping out games, cartoons, comic books, toys, and t-shirts 30 years later? I plan to find out in this video series, where I'm going to revisit every video game in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, from 1991 to today and into the future. As long as they keep making Sonic games, I will keep reviewing them. But before getting excited for the future, let's look back at the past. This is every Sonic ever. Sonic was introduced in the early 90s as a mascot for Sega, who had been struggling to take market share in regions dominated by Nintendo. Sega had a ton of arcade hits, but their home console division needed a little push. A game that could only work on a Sega platform, one that could show off the impressive power at the time. The answer to Sega's problems came in the form of a speedy blue hedgehog who could curl up into a ball and smash through robots. Sega packaged the first Sonic game with their Genesis console in North America, and the rest is history. The success of the Sega Genesis bundle with Sonic the Hedgehog led Sega to take control of the home console market from Nintendo. For a brief period, Sega were on top of the world. The Genesis would see a number of Sonic games, including a few spin-offs, as well as titles for Sega's Master System and Game Gear consoles. This success would be supplemented by 2 animated series and a comic book that would run monthly for over 20 years. However, success wouldn't last forever. In 1994, Sega fumbled to release their next console, the CD-based Sega Saturn, which would compete with both the Sony PlayStation and the then-upcoming Nintendo 64. The release was a disaster, and the Saturn had a limited library of games, none of which featured Sonic until 1996. Sega's troubles were made worse by the failures of both add-ons for the Genesis, the Sega CD, and the 32X. By 1996, Nintendo would launch their newest console, the Nintendo 64, and with it, the game that set the standard for 3D platformers, Super Mario 64. Sonic was able to compete with Mario in the early 90s, but the Jumping Plumber came back with a vengeance in a way Sonic could never compete with. Sega had plans for an ultimate 3D Sonic killer app for the Saturn called Sonic Extreme, but the game would wind up cancelled late in development. Then in 1999, Sega's final console, the Sega Dreamcast, would launch alongside Sonic's first venture into 3D, Sonic Adventure. The game was impressive at the time, boasting fully voice-acted cutscenes and a booming hard rock soundtrack. Unfortunately, the Dreamcast launched too early. Sony's PlayStation 2 would launch the following year, and with it came the final nail in Sega's coffin. DVD was shaping up to be the new standard for home video, and Sony included a DVD drive in the PlayStation 2. Being the most affordable DVD player available at the time gave the PS2 a significant edge, and by 2001, Sega had ceased production on the Dreamcast. Though they left the hardware market, Sega would continue to publish games as a third-party publisher, bringing Sonic to platforms he would have never been on before. This shift to third-party development didn't start off so smoothly, as their developers weren't used to developing for other platforms. Sonic Team got some practice porting Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 to Nintendo's GameCube, but their first original Sonic title to go multi-platform would have some issues. Sonic Heroes worked great on GameCube, okay on Xbox, and was a disaster on Sony's PlayStation 2. The next few years would be dark for the Sonic franchise, as the fan community introduces the idea of the Sonic Cycle. The Sonic Cycle is the theory that fans get excited at every announcement for a new Sonic game, only to find that excitement lessen as more information about the game comes out, finally ending with the game's release, which turns out to be a massive disappointment. The cycle began with the 2003 announcement of Sonic Heroes, and continued with 2006's Sonic the Hedgehog and 2008's Sonic Unleashed, until it ended with the critical and commercial success of 2010's Sonic Colors. Sonic Colors was the moment when Sega and Sonic Team figured out a good modern formula for the Sonic franchise. After years of padding the gameplay with playable friends and unnecessary power-ups, Sonic Team finally delivered with a game that was all Sonic. The Wisps do technically count as unnecessary power-ups, but they were welcomed by fans for not being the sole focus of the game. In the 2010s, the franchise came to a rocky point with the introduction of the Sonic Boom sub-franchise. Sega recognized that Sonic was most popular in the West compared to Japan, so they sought to reimagine Sonic for a Western audience. While the idea might have had some merit, fans were disinterested in the new designs, and when the game launched, it was a broken mess. The TV show that was produced alongside the game was a reasonable success with fans and critics, running for a total of 104 episodes on Cartoon Network in the US. After the dust settled following Boom, Sega announced 2 games to be released in 2017. One a new game in the classic franchise called Sonic Mania, the other a new game in the modern franchise called Sonic Forces. Forces was unfortunately another victim of the Sonic cycle, while Mania went on to be a cult hit and a top seller of the franchise. Through all of Sonic's high and low points, for whatever reason the franchise still goes strong. In 2019, Sonic made a guest appearance in an episode of the Cartoon Network series OKKO Let's Be Heroes, and in 2020 he's going to be the star of his own live-action movie. As far as games are concerned, 2021 is Sonic's 30th anniversary, so one would expect the folks at Sega to take full advantage of it. In the meantime, we still have 30 years of Sonic to explore. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified of future videos. If you really like us, subscribe to our Patreon to catch all our future videos first. Peace out.